Hey everyone, welcome today. My name is Betsy Jensen, and we'll be doing this workshop today on graded exposure. And we'll talk a lot more about what that is and probably have some time to do some demos as well. But first of all, while people are just joining, you can go ahead and pop in on the chat where you're calling from. There's a few people from the UK, from Dublin, England, from Kansas City, from Quebec, from Michigan. Cool. I'll just tell you a little bit about me for, like I said, a minute or two while people are joining. Oh, it's making me admit them. Okay. Okay. So I'm in Utah. I mainly grew up in Utah and I've lived a few other places. I was a physical therapist for 20 years. And before that, I majored in psychology. So I've always loved like mind and body. And then I eventually, with the stressful life I was living, especially the stressors I was putting on myself, developed digestive problems. It was actually ulcerative colitis. And I got introduced to the book by John Sarno, The Divided Mind, that talks about ulcerative colitis specifically being psychosomatic, mind-body. So for me, I was actually excited. I know with this work, there's different stuff about autoimmune, and we're not going to get into any of that. So, but basically for me, it was before PRT was out. It was before the book, The Way Out, had come out. So I was able to, with the coaching tools I was learning about, and then The Divided Mind by John Sarno. And I also read Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, which I think is relevant to this topic because he does a lot of like visualization and meditation and stuff. And I was also going through a lot of life changes. It was when I was getting divorced. And so after, all of those stressors, and I learned to manage better, and I focused on myself and learned about self-care and how to actually do it and how to not beat myself up all the time, my ulcerative colitis went away. And they said, whatever's left is, if you do have symptoms from now on, you don't have active disease. So those are IBS symptoms, irritable bowel syndrome symptoms, IBS. And that is definitely one of the mind-body conditions that we talk about, TMS or neuroplastic. Basically, the way I think about it is when I'm under stress, my nervous system shuts down my digestion. So, whether you have like constipation or diarrhea or any of those bloating, gas, those kind of issues, seeing them as a stress response versus the food that you're eating. So anyway, that's what brought me to the work. I've always, like I said, I always loved like psychology. I was always into self-help. So for me, when I found out that this was the approach, I was like super excited and on board and just excited to talk to people about it. I started talking to everyone I could at physical therapy about the role of stress and how they could change their symptoms with their mind. And eventually, I just really noticed that the more I talked about it with people, I would get energized. I would actually like walk away from a 2-hour conversation feeling energized rather than drained. And so that's when I realized I really wanted to pursue this, became a coach, and, it's led me here. So that's a little bit about me. And okay, someone else is saying from Ohio, New Jersey, Boston. Cool, you guys. All right. So anyway, great to see you. And what I want to do today in our workshop is explain to you a little bit about what graded exposure is and do some demos. And just to start, I want us all to take a moment to do some kind of nervous system relaxation, because that will put us into a more receptive mood for learning. And I want you to just first start by checking in with how you're feeling right now. So you can put in the chat how you're feeling. You might be feeling like a little anxious, or you might be feeling excited, or you might be feeling kind of like bored or in freeze, or whatever comes up for you, how you're feeling right now. just kind of checking in, and you can write it in the chat. I'm feeling excited myself and with like a little bit of nervousness. And that's why I wanted to start with just like a little breathing exercise that I can teach you real quick that we can all do together. Tired, anxious, let's see, tired, late night, but feeling good, excited to be here and to see what we're going to learn today. Worried, stressed, excited. Yeah, you guys, we can have different emotions, right? Oh, anticipatory, I missed. So we can have, you know, kind of like conflicting emotions all at the same time. So it's good to just check in with where you are periodically. Notice that there's, you know, oh, hopeful, glad to be here, whatever's here. A little anxious, happy to be here. Yeah. Okay, curious. Yeah. So what we know about the nervous system is like, depending on what mood we're in, we can tell, you know, what nervous system state we're in. And so if we are, you know, say we are in a lot of hopelessness and despair, it's going to be really hard for us to receive the information. Or if we're in a lot of overwhelm or confusion, you know, even if someone explains something very simply, but you're starting in confusion, it's going to have a harder time landing. So regulating the nervous system to the state of the calm, flow state, or relaxed, or it doesn't even have to be relaxed. It could just be less stressed, is where you're actually going to be able to connect with people better, to receive information and learn better, to have more creative ideas and inspirations. So anyway, let's do that together. What we'll do, there's hundreds of different ways to regulate your nervous system, but an easy way is through the breath. You might have heard this technique before, but you take 2 breaths in. So you take a full breath in, pause, and then you take another breath in and really fill your lungs. And then you exhale as slowly as you can, like maybe 6 counts or 8 counts out. So let's try that together. Take a full breath in. Now take a little more breath in, sip it in. And then take that long, slow exhale. And repeat that 2 or 3 more times. One more time in. Breathe in again. And then exhale slowly. And then you can just check back in. How does your body feel now? Is there a difference? You can write in the chat too. Did anyone notice anything with that? For me, I felt like a little more grounded. I had a little bit of that anxious energy of that just feels like fast moving. And then it like slowed down for me. So yeah, Claire says calmer. Andrew, breathing always grounds me. Haha, yes. Yes. Sometimes it just takes like a few seconds. Less pain with headache. Oh my gosh, right? Just, I feel like a lot of times we make things really confusing and we're like, what do I do? And how do I do it? And basically we just want to get to this calm state, to the ventral state, you'll sometimes hear it called, or the safe state of the nervous system, however that's accessible to you. So Peter says, yes, much better. Body feels more relaxed. Okay, so good, you guys, so good. Okay, from there, let's move on to talking about what graded exposure is. So this is a way of basically training your brain to deal with triggering events or movements or foods, or could be people. It's not generally used for that in this world, but basically, like I was talking about Joe Dispenza earlier, there is a lot of research around visualization. Olympians have been using it for decades to train for, their ultra high performances. And what we know is the body or the brain has a hard time distinguishing from what is actually real in the environment and what it's receiving as internal input. So we can use that to our advantage to rewire that programming of triggering behaviors in a way that's not as fearful. Because, say, if you're usually experiencing pain with going from sitting to standing, you might want to say, well, I want to start, getting better at doing that without pain. But every time you do it in real life, there's actually pain. And so that causes fear. And then, as we know, the pain fear cycle causes more pain. So graded exposure, when you're trying it in real life and there is pain, we want to take a step back and do something that's even less triggering to the nervous system, less fearful to the, state, and then start with something that's like really not dangerous at all, right? Because you're just imagining it. For me, like I told you, my issues were the digestive things. And when I did Howard Schubiner's training for practitioners, and he was talking about, I think it was, I don't know if it was graded exposure. It wasn't graded exposure, actually. It was, anyway, he was just talking about how food doesn't cause pain and how these neural pathways can happen because we eat something when we're stressed. We associate it with, that food caused the pain. And then we, subconsciously, if we get around that food again, start creating the pain. And as he was talking, I imagined coffee, because that was something that I really liked and enjoy, I guess. But I was really like having a lot of symptoms when I would drink coffee. And I just sat there and imagined coffee, and my stomach started churning and really hurting. So I was like, okay, totally, all of that was neuroplastic, right? You can't argue that that's neuroplastic because I hadn't ingested any of the chemicals, or the chemicals sounds weird, but, I hadn't ingested the coffee itself. And I was still having that symptom. And you might find that I found with some of my clients, they have even a hard time imagining doing something pain-free. And they didn't even realize that there's so much story, there's so much conditioning that when their brain, when they do imagine themselves doing something, they either have pain in their imagination, it actually creates pain in real life, or they flat out can't imagine themselves doing it. Like I had one guy that could imagine himself walking, but he could not imagine himself running. His mind just went black. Like his brain was like, we don't do that, basically. So you can see that, like, in order to get your brain and body on board, you got to start at least with like the belief that you can do it, right? It's going to be really hard to prove to yourself, I'm going to go from sitting to standing without pain this time, even though every other time it's happened, but let me test out this time. It still happened. And then making that mean something versus getting to where you're really, really good at going from sitting to stand in your mind, pain-free. It's easy, you're not fearful of it, and then trying it in real life. Okay. Any questions so far? That's basically what it is. We're trying to like expose ourselves to triggers, whether they be food or, situations in the environment or actual movements. We're imagining them. We're using that power of the mind. And that's the most gradual, safe place to start. Okay. I think we have just like, okay, let's answer questions. I was like, well, let's go be thinking if you have, a specific thing, like the sit to stand is a really good example because you could do that right here and you can see the difference, or like raising your arm, something that if your issue is like, well, it's after I run for an hour, it's still worth doing the graded exposure, but for this demonstration, I'd be looking for more of someone that has something we could like just kind of visually test out and see. Okay, so Janet, I can walk and I can stand, but I can't do either for any length of time. So how do you do visualization if the issue is time? Oh, that's funny. You had written that and I didn't read it until after I just made that comment. So basically, you can still do it. Absolutely. You could just do the process as I demo it with someone and, just think of that context of like, maybe you said it was like walk or stand. Maybe you imagine a situation where it's like you've been walking for a while. It's a trail where that far is where I usually get pain or something. Or standing, maybe you imagine yourself in the kitchen and making something. And so yes, definitely you can still do it. And Liz had a similar comment, like sitting, but most of the pain is delayed. So just follow along with what we do. And you might be surprised. Like sometimes people, when we do the first step, which is imagining the trigger, sometimes people have a little more of a response than they think they're going to. Vice versa, sometimes people have less of a response than they think they're going to. And I've even had people where maybe in one visit, we've done the graded exposure and they didn't really have a reaction in their body when they imagined it. And then another time they did. So that's why I wanted to start with like a calming exercise first. And because the brain is complicated and all of these, other like confusion or new information or novelty, right? Like all of these things can play a role. But I guess my bottom line answer is try it out. There's no harm in trying and just see what your brain is offering today. And, just with that curiosity, it's basically like, yeah, you can, well, you'll see, you'll build up this like imaginary scenario, doing the activity, pairing it with a powerful emotion. And that alone can be super helpful, even if it's not a painful activity, but it's something that you get a lot of worry about or dread about, just imagining yourself there, doing the thing with a pleasant emotion. This graded exposure technique can be used in so many different ways. So try it out and check back in at the end, Janet and Liz, and let me know if you want. Okay, Andrew, I'm a student, but studying makes everything worse for me. Okay. Yeah, and there could be a lot going on there, right? Like most of the people that I work with that get pain, studying or typing their notes or in their job or in their business, they're working at their computer. There are other stressors too to look at, not just the physical position, but then they might think of their desk or their chair and, start to get some high attention, high guard, tensing, things like that, just with imagining that situation or just with going, into that room, starting to tense up a little. Yeah, studying makes everything worse for me. That could definitely be some of the nervous system state and emotional component there, obviously more than the physical position. All right. Is there anyone that has like pain with a movement that you could just show us kind of quickly? If not, I think we could use, really anyone, but okay. Claire says exercise, no specific exercise, but it would be a lot of one thing or things in one go. Yeah, there's kind of a similarity with you guys, right? So it's like doing too much, duration, overdoing it. So I can power walk for more than an hour easily. I can do yoga for an hour. I know my boundaries at the moment and they are safe. I want to do lots of new exercises like skipping, jump rope in the US, and more cardio exercises. I think my inner voice still says, if I do this exercise, it's too much and it's dangerous. So we need to activate pain. Yes, that is the perfect kind of example of, I'm glad you have that realization and your brain is kind of like, these things are dangerous, so it will produce pain to prevent you from doing them. So you could start with imagining skipping, jumping rope, right? And imagining it the way that we'll describe, with a powerful emotion. And, or Trish says, riding a bike, right? Like, these are great. I even imagined this, it wasn't because I had pain, but I've been doing a lot of yoga, and I was just curious about imagining how I did handstands, if I could use graded exposure, or I would say more the power of visualization to improve my handstands. And I would imagine myself doing a handstand for about 3 seconds and then falling back, which is exactly what I would do in real life. So I'm like, oh, interesting. Again, if I want to improve my physical performance in this area, let me start with like my brain even believing that it's possible for my body. So when I would go to sleep at night, I would just imagine myself doing handstands, or sometimes, if I was just like bored or whatever, and I could close my eyes. And it was hard to imagine doing a 10-second handstand. But when I was doing that, my handstands did improve because, I was like prepping my brain and body that it's even possible. Okay. And then how about lifting a heavy suitcase? Yeah, totally. That would be a great one. Yeah. You don't happen to, I'm like, you don't happen to have a heavy suitcase. Basically what I'm looking for is just someone who's willing to do a demo, who could kind of demonstrate the thing that causes their pain pretty easily without, us waiting for you to run for an hour. So if it is something like lifting something heavy. If there's not someone that like something comes to mind, what we'll do, let's just do it together. Oh, Andrew says stretching you can demo. Hey, yeah, Andrew, do you want to hop on? You can unmute and turn your camera on. And what we'll do is everyone, you think of your own thing, whatever it is that you want to do, and apply it. And then we'll take another demo after this if you're like, hey, this was cool, or I have questions about this. Oh,
hello.
and sitting up without a backrest. Hey, welcome.
Nice to meet you. Nice to talk to you. So yes, stretching for me, like bending over or anything like that, is very painful for me. And yeah.
Okay. So basically we want to just get kind of a baseline. So I don't want to put you in a ton of pain, but I also want to just have you do as much as feels okay to do, and just tell me like where you start getting pain, like, in your motion, when you start it, and how much you feel. And then when you stop moving, how it feels. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Hold on.
That's
sorry. I got to adjust everyone, the lighting a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Everyone who's playing along, if you can't recreate the thing like going out running for an hour, that's okay. But if it is something that you can easily recreate, like you're like, oh, when I turn my neck this way, then just turn your neck that way, see how it feels, rate it from 0 to 10. All the backlighting.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. That's okay.
Okay.
We didn't think you'd be the star on
yeah, no worries. It's an honor.
Yeah. I appreciate you being
this camera's not working. Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead and just like, it's bending. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's really any stretching. So I guess I'll just start kind of like hamstrings going down. And sorry, can you repeat what you want me to tell you as I'm doing it?
Yeah. Just let me know when you start feeling something and how intense it feels.
Okay.
As you do the movement.
So immediately there,
how much?
The right side of my back. Yeah, it's pretty intense. Tightness.
Okay. Like from 0 to 10, what would you give it?
I would give it probably a 6.
A 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you stop stretching, does it go back to a lower level?
Yeah, definitely. It's probably more like a 2 or 3 now.
2 or 3. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's perfect for this example. If you were still in pain, it would be hard to know what is going on when you do the visualization. But Right now it's like a 2 or 3, and you just barely do the movement. So it's fresh on your mind and the feeling is fresh on your mind, right?
Yes.
So now that the second part is just to imagine yourself doing it. So I'm going to have you close your eyes, get as comfortable as you can. If you're in a chair, you can sit back in your chair. If you're, you're just like getting into the kind of like zoning into your body state. And you're going to like imagine as best you can, and don't be down on yourself. Everyone is a little different with how they imagine things and if it's easy for them or not. Just it gets better with practice. But can you imagine yourself sitting there and then moving into that movement, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm gonna take couple more deep breaths, and then I'm gonna go for it.
Oh, good. Yeah, take a couple more deep breaths. Yeah. So okay, for this second part, you actually don't even have to do the movement. You're just imagining it.
Sorry, no, yeah.
No, that's okay. That's a common, like, I'm glad you're like real life demo. This is obviously not rehearsed.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So this part 2, part 1, you do it. Part 2, you imagine it. So you're just like, you imagine doing what you just barely did. And it's nice that you just did it, because then you're just like, oh, okay, kind of remember how it feels to put my legs out straight. And then I remember how it feels when I bend forward. You're not actually doing it, but you're just imagining yourself doing it. And then you're just imagining reaching for that foot and kind of, struggling and reaching. And you imagine what, kind of how that right side has felt, and maybe just notice, does it feel like maybe there's some activation there, or some awareness, or some actual sensation there in real life as you imagine it? How did that go for you, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of meditation practices, but I tend to not like imagine actual feelings in it. So it's interesting. I don't know if I noticed any like actual feelings, but it was cool to try and imagine it going well, because I think I definitely tell myself a lot of stories about X, Y, and Z. So
okay. So for this one, just to clarify, we'll get to the one where we really like get into doing it and feeling good about it.
Yeah.
But for this one, just the testing for, part 2.
Yeah.
As you imagine it, you're just like, the first time you're just imagining it and just seeing what does happen. And maybe it does go well and it's, there's no sensation. But what I really want you to notice, if you imagine it and you just like see what your brain has already there subconsciously, just notice if it kind of, sometimes people get, maybe they're just like, I get a little awareness in that right side. It's like, it doesn't catch up, but it's kind of like high guard, right on the verge. Like, so I'll have you imagine that again. And I don't want to, have you just feel like, oh, I have to do it this certain way and give her the right answer. But I just want to give you that, a little more refinement of what we were talking about, and have you just try one more time and just see what happens. And again, we're just like, we want to just be totally like, whatever happens, brain, we're not trying to go in there and fix you. We're just being okay. So I'll give you a second to try that again. And just like, again, imagine yourself like, this is not the one where we're like going for making it feel good. We're just kind of,
we're solely imagining it.
Yeah, you're just imagining like, okay, here was the movement I just did. And now I'm gonna imagine stretching out my legs, bending over, reaching, and just see, as I imagine doing it, does anything happen in real life?
Okay.
And again, we don't have to try to force anything. And I've had people where, like in one situation like this, it's very public, and this is maybe your first time doing it like this. It might even have a different effect on a different day. But did you get any kind of that?
I mean, yeah. So here, let me come closer to the camera. Okay. It's interesting. Like, I feel like with the deep breathing and kind of imagining, I guess you can kind of like feel the parts where it's pained a little bit more. I don't know how to really word that, which is interesting.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like with
yeah, sorry, I was trying to fix it in one go instead of
yeah, that is actually really common. So I'm glad it happened that way. Because sometimes this is just how we are, right? We're like, let me go right to fixing it. And first we want to just have the awareness. So thank you for inadvertently demoing that for us.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't the best demo.
No, that was the best. That was absolutely the best. That was perfect. And then Andrea says, I definitely felt almost the same feelings when imagining it. Sorry, I just lost it. When doing it and when imagining it. I definitely felt almost the same feelings when doing it and when imagining it. Yeah, just imagining standing, talking to a friend immediately triggers the pain. My breathing became short and shallow, right? So that, you guys, I want to just like let this settle in for everyone. Your brain associates that with danger, the movement, the trigger. So even imagining it, we're starting to get into, those survival states just a little bit. And sometimes even full blown. Yeah, I've had people, their pain, doing it and imagining it was both 4 out of 10, right? But it's not like that for everyone. So just be okay with what's going on. My issue is driving for more than 30 minutes any given day. How do I apply this if sitting gets uncomfortable, but it's not necessarily painful then later on? When I try to rest it, it can ramp up that even the next day. I haven't had any luck with imagining sitting yet. Yeah. And driving is an interesting thing because it's even different than just sitting, right? Like if people tell me they can sit and do other things for 30 minutes, but then driving 30 minutes, that makes me think of all the emotional stuff that's going on with driving. So that might even be a way as we do the next part of the graded exposure to imagine driving and look at kind of those other stressors maybe with driving that could be contributing to the stressful state of the muscles and then the pain. Sarah says the muscles across my shoulders tensed up. Can't sit or drive. Driving is worse. Yeah. Driving, what do you guys think about that? Driving has its own like stressors that would be different than just sitting in a chair, right? Like we talked about with the student, right? Like sitting in a chair and studying, then all of a sudden we want to be like, wait, what are those internal pressures I'm putting on myself? What is my nervous system thinking that's dangerous, that we can calm it so that it feels safe, so that we're not in pain. Okay, so back to Andrew. Are you still with me and ready to do a little more?
Yes, I am.
Sweet. Okay, so what we'll do now is the third part. So just to review, we did the motion. We imagined doing the motion. And now we're going to imagine, you can even do it wherever you're most comfortable. This one is imagining also.
Okay.
So thanks for getting down it up.
No, I'm trying to be the best demo I can. Sorry.
Yeah. Driving is incredibly anxiety provoking. Listening to music helps distract me from it. So good to know, right? You guys, all these little tricks so that we're not like, oh, now I can't drive. You can be like, oh, I just need to create this sense of safety so I don't have the pain. Okay, so we did the visualizing it and just seeing what happened. And now we're going to visualize it with purpose, with a powerful emotion. So what I want you to do, go ahead and close your eyes again. Imagine yourself sitting and stretching, or for anyone else, whatever your thing was. And imagine that you're feeling a powerful emotion like gratitude. You're so happy you can do it. Maybe you imagine yourself like actually reaching your toe and you're like amazed that it feels good. And you're so grateful that it's like feeling amazing. And maybe you could even imagine yourself outside in a place that you love, like in your yard or at the beach or something, and the sun's on your face and you can just like feel a light breeze and you're just like so grateful that you're able to do this movement that it used to be hard, and so you really appreciate it, and you're just like noticing how flexible you feel and how it feels so good to have those muscles, just relaxed and easy. And how does that go for you when you imagine it positively?
Yeah, that's a game changer for sure. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I
Tell me about
really
that.
liked the aspect of trying to put myself in a happy place. I put
Yeah.
myself on a beach, as you said, and
Yes.
just kind of had like this joyous feeling of like, oh my goodness, I can finally stretch like this again, which I've always been able to do, but now I can't. So yeah, that was actually pretty cool right there.
Yes. That's the secret sauce, you guys. So like we can imagine something, but when we pair it with those powerful emotions, that is what signifies to our brain that this is important. So if we're
Definitely.
just like, okay, I did my imagining for 10 minutes, why isn't it better? We're creating an experience because again, we want the brain to know that we're safe. We want this to be like, hey, brain, I know you've, thought that bending over this way is like maybe like damaging something or hurt, like the pain has made you feel like there's an injury or something structural, like, but we're safe. We can do this. And you can start by just that beach and you're happy. What emotion did you pick?
I just tried to do like joy or happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
something
good.
along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
That was really cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not done, but I do want to read a couple of these suggestion or like, sorry, these chats here. I
Yeah.
like gratitude. Carol says, can a feeling of empowerment also work? Heck yeah. Yeah. You guys, our brain, I don't know why this reminded me because it's a little different thing, but our brain is so powerful. Even just like our postural positions can change our hormone production. There was one where if you're like standing like Wonder Woman, then you produce more testosterone. I think that empowerment reminded me of that. So we can use all these little hacks for our brain to make this work a little easier. So then my throat has burned at the top for 3 years. I'm using a protocol to stimulate the vagus nerve and calm the nervous system, which has helped as I've been diagnosed with vagal neuropathy. Oh, I've never heard of that. Is it better? But it is better, but it's always there. Any suggestions? I'm starting with pandemic stress. I'm immunocompromised. It's hard to remove that trigger is always there. Yeah. So definitely I'm hearing like a lot of fear. I think calming the vagus nerve is definitely the route I would go as well. I don't know a ton about those things you're talking about with the simulators. I've heard of those or, a protocol, but any suggestions? I mean, as regards to graded exposure, imagining maybe there's something that's soothing that you do and you could imagine that, right? You're imagining like eating ice cream or something. I've done this as part of the somatic tracking with clients where, we're feeling that burning sensation and then like what would make it feel better. And they imagine like a fan on it, or they imagine an ice cube and they're rubbing it around. And so that kind of thing can even work. It's not necessarily graded exposure to a trigger. It's kind of almost the opposite, but yeah, you can make this work for you in any way that you can think of. Helps to smile. Oh, thank you, Janet. Thank you so much. It does help to smile in real life when imagining the positive emotion. I'm so glad you said that. I almost forgot that. Smile in real life. Yeah. And Barb, yes, smiling helps me too. Thanks, you guys. Yes, that is like super, super, like it's a fun part that you can add. It's so easy. And actually smiling in real life, they've shown does produce dopamine. So like, even if you're not happy and you smile, you just like fake it till you make it and force a smile, it actually changes the neurochemicals in your body. And then you do start feeling happier. Okay. So yes, smiling. Okay. So let's just, since it's been a minute, I want you to imagine that again. Okay. Let's do one more round of you imagining you're on the beach. You're like hearing the calming waves. If you involve more of your senses, like, the smell of the ocean, the smile in real life, let's for sure remember the smile in real life. Yeah. You're smiling and like, so grateful you can do it. And are you able to touch your toe in your imagination? Can you get all the way there? Yeah. Okay, cool. Nice. Yeah. You're just like, oh, happy, joyful. Okay. Step 4?
Yes.
For step 4?
I am, yes. Thank you so much.
This
is cool.
Yeah, it is cool, right? So here, let's have you try it in real life. So again,
Okay.
we're just going to be like, no expectations, whatever happens, happens. But sometimes this is like a kind of cool, fun part.
I am an athlete, so I'm very sore. So that's just
something to keep
in mind.
Okay.
But yeah,
is there any way, I'm so sorry, but could you like adjust the camera down again just so we can see?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I know you just got on the floor there. Okay, perfect.
Like so.
Perfect. Yeah,
is that
just
better?
like, yeah. Just because this is the fun part where we just kind of like test it out, see how it goes,
Like so.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, it's just the same, but like see how it goes and see if it feels any different, see if you can go any further, see if you definitely are going further.
Definitely going further.
You're definitely going further. How is that feeling to you?
A lot better, definitely.
A lot better. So cool.
I'm holding it, sorry.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Do what feels good. Like you touched your toe.
Yeah. Wow. That's so weird.
Right?
Yeah. I feel like that's such a big thing for me, is like placing myself in that place of like, oh my goodness, I'm calm, I'm safe, like I'm happy here. Like,
yes,
that was really weird. I really have not been able to touch my toes in a while. So
yay. Okay.
yes.
Well, dang. So this is just with like a little bit of practice, like a couple reps. But just like, you build muscles by doing lots of reps, you can do reps of this in your mind, as much as you want. Don't notice if you start to be obsessive about it and, urgent about it, but just like, it can be this like fun thing that you add in. And it's like, it's so safe and so calm, right? Like there's no way you could hurt yourself in your imagination, right?
Right. Yeah, that was so cool. I thank you so much for allowing me to demo with you.
Thank you, because that was like, that's super powerful for people to see. So that was just like super fun. And
well, it's so real too. That's the weirdest part about it. It's like,
exactly.
Whoa. Yes.
This is not a like staged presentation in any way. It's like the real power of the mind, but it feels like magic. It just feels like magic just happened.
Yeah, literally. Thank you so much, Betsy.
Especially like, oh, you're so welcome. Especially from my physical therapy background, to be like, do this exercise for like 6 weeks and maybe you'll start to feel better, versus like 5 minutes and like, just really using that power of your mind to shift your state, and then the physical stuff follows.
Pretty cool. Thank you so much.
So cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, coming back to the chat. What if you already have pain when you begin this process? Do you check to see if it escalates? Yeah, exactly. And just use your best judgment. Like, it is going to go better if it's like with Andrew, where it was like a certain thing and it was very easy to test. He wasn't having a ton of pain. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but you might want more of the like somatic tracking stuff. If your pain is like an 8 or 9, just use your kind of judgment. And again, like, it could be different from day to day. That's what's so hard. So generally, I would say it might work best if you're in a lower pain state. So like distract and regulate your nervous system to get it lower first. But if there's something that you're like really wanting to do, like, I don't think it's horrible to imagine yourself walking across the room or skiing down a hill or jump roping or something, if you can do it with that pleasurable state, feeling happy. If imagining it makes you feel worse because you're like, oh, I wish I could do that and I can't, and then don't do it. Does that make sense? Thank you, Andy, for demonstrating. Thank you. Claire, I think I'm going to use it for my stiff upper back too. There's cases for perceived stiffness, and lifting my arms above my head is hard and painful, and I can't really do it. Would it help to watch the videos of people doing the thing you want? Yours, okay, so Claire, yours might be a good one for a demo if you're interested in doing that. Yes, okay. You're a perfect one for this, where it's just easy to see on camera. And then Amna, asks about how to apply this to food sensitivities. So right after we do Claire's demo, then we'll do that. And then Janet said, should we do lots of repetitions of the visualization over a period of time? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's no protocol of like, do it, you know, for 5 minutes per day, 3 times a day, you know, like just have fun with it. Don't get too serious about it. And I really want you to tune into your own nervous system when you're doing it to see if you're feeling like you're doing it from a lot of like urgency and scarcity and like, you know, it's just like somatic tracking. When you do it from neediness, it's not going to have the same outcome. So like you can't really overdo it with graded exposure, but a lot of us with chronic pain tend to be perfectionists and we tend to get really like, I'm going to like do this faster and do this better than anyone else. And so just like notice if that is happening for you and just like the gentler, the better. Okay. It should be fun. Okay. So back to Claire, let's do this. So it's with raising your arms or both arms or.
Yeah, so, you know, when, you know, if you were just to clasp your hands and do that and just raising, putting my arms straight above my head.
Okay.
I'm not able to do that or put my arms in line with my ears without hoiking my shoulders up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You know. So just doing that motion, you felt the sensation, the pain. And from 0 to 10, when you were doing it, how much would you rate that?
It's probably about a 6, 7.
Okay. And then when you bring them back down, does it go back down?
Yeah, totally. But I've always got a sensation of stiffness across my thoracic area.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So right now, even just sitting, you feel stiff in the thoracic area.
It's become normal.
Oh, how much, from 0 to 10, how much stiffness? I know these are weird questions, but they're, you know, they're kind of arbitrary, but for you, how would you rate it?
I'd put it at a 5.
Okay. Okay. And that's just kind of all the time.
All the time.
Okay. So this might be good. Like, well, like, honestly, you guys, I don't even know what's going to happen with any of you, like, but this might be good for the people asking if I have a symptom that's always there, can that change too? Right. So I would say, yes, try it. Let's do it. But let's try it with you. Okay. Okay. So first of all, you just did the motion, and then we're going to have you just imagine doing the motion, not the smiling way, not the pleasureful way, but just like kind of recreate. I just barely did this, and now I'm doing it again, but just in my mind. So how does that go I'll give you a couple seconds.
Oh, it's just great. It feels, I guess I would use the word nothing. It feels like nothing. There's no pain, there's no stiffness, and I feel free and easy, like I'm not stuck in a vice or a brace.
Okay. So I'm just gonna pause because like usually what I don't even know if it's usually what I expect, but maybe that's not for everyone. If it happens that you just imagine doing it and still have some sensation, you know, just notice that in the imagination there was that protectiveness or guarding with just imagining doing it. Now for you imagined doing it and it was pain-free. Yeah. So we're going to just like kind of conveniently skip that step. But again, the first time you imagine it, try to not go to the like happy emotions at first, because we're just like getting our baseline. You like do the motion, imagine doing that same thing. And then, but then let's imagine doing it. We'll get into the real like smiling and emotions. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes again, imagine doing it. And I want you to imagine the most pleasurable emotions you can. Maybe it's happiness or joy or gratitude or excitement. And maybe you're like outside where it's sunny and you're like stretching and reaching up and noticing how like even the thoracic area just feels free and the breaths are easy and you can smile in real life, and just like you're savoring every moment because you know that constriction you used to feel, and you're just amazed that it's so expansive now, and you just feel joyful and happy. Maybe you're smelling like the fragrant flowers in the air, or you're like feeling the light wind and it's blowing your hair, like anything that's just like, oh, yummy, right? You're just like, oh, this is so good. I love it. Okay. How does that go?
It feels great.
Yeah. Okay, good. Were you imagining a certain place?
Yeah, a couple of places really. One of the things that I really love is music and being at a gig, and I stood up dancing and waving my hand in the air. Yeah. And then I was on a beach, like you were saying, and smelling and feeling the sun, and just, oh, this is great. I'm on holiday and it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. You want to try it in real life just for fun? Like no pressure. We're just going to be like curious. How does it feel now to do that? Oh, oh my gosh. Okay. That's further. It got closer to your ears. Did you feel that?
Yes.
Yeah, you're up higher.
It feels different, as in, I think what you hit on it really with because it is the perception, and I think because we've brought those emotions in, that's changed the perception of it. So maybe the range of movement is still the same, but to me it feels different.
Well, I would watch this back if you're curious, because I watched, the space between your head and your shoulder when you first did it, and you got closer the second time. I mean, you did. So I saw it. So, and it's on video. So that's cool. We can watch it back if we want. And the coolest part about it, like, who cares? We did one like 5-minute thing, and maybe it was like an inch more or something, 5 degrees or whatever. But the best part about it was it felt better to you. There wasn't like the same sensation when you did it, right?
That's it. And I think that's the key word as well. It's the sensation of it.
Yeah.
And just having that awareness of where my head was and where my emotions were when I was doing it. Normally when I do those kind of movements, I'm anticipating it to be stiff.
Yes.
I'm stiff because it feels stiff.
Yeah.
So it's all surrounded by negativity rather than putting that positive spin on it. So that's really, really interesting.
Yeah, you guys, that is the biggest factor in breaking that pain fear cycle is, really starting to feel safe and imagine that it's safe and convince your brain first that it's safe. And then it will have a better chance of not fighting you when you go to actually do it in real life. So awesome. How does the tightness in the chest feel? I'm just curious if that feels any different.
Difficult to tell at the moment. I normally do feel the tightness in the chest as well, because obviously it's all linked and attached with the muscles in that way. But actually,
maybe
it doesn't feel
I would question that thought even.
Okay,
linked and attached, like maybe it's not.
That's really interesting, because that's belief.
It's a belief. Yeah. You guys, our beliefs will cause changes in our body, and they will predict. This predictive coding is that sneaky, or not sneaky, it's a clever way of our brain to save time and to, like make an assumption. But what assumptions do? Like, they're not helpful for anyone, right? Okay, before we end, okay, so that was really, really good. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to get to those last questions. So presumably the visualization would work for the problem of waking up in pain when you haven't gone to sleep in pain. Yes. Anything that you can think of to like, this situation bothers me, try the graded exposure on it. Even if you're like, yeah, but I haven't really slept. Can I imagine doing it? Or I haven't driven for an hour. Just like start to introduce this to your brain. Start to, make this part of your practice of like, things are safe. Okay. And then Susan says, oh, this is a great question. Can you quickly run through the steps before we end? Yes, absolutely. The first step is to do the action if you can, right? Like for me, I skipped the first step of drinking actual coffee because that was irritating me at the time. So first step, if you can, do the motion. That just kind of reminds your brain what it feels like. It gets you kind of into that state. But also use your best judgment, right? Use your best judgment with that. That step can be skipped. Step 2 is to imagine doing the motion and just see what happens, right? This time you're not doing any kind of intent. You're not trying to change and like build new neural pathways. You're just like curious with, when I imagine bending over, what does my brain do? What does my body do? When I imagine driving for half an hour in traffic with all the cars around me, what does my brain do? Okay, what does my body do? That's step 2. Step 3 is to imagine it with the fun, the pleasure, the gratitude, smiling in real life, in a beautiful place, the sights, the sounds, the music, the tastes, the touches, any of the multisensory experience in your mind around the pleasure of doing this motion or eating that food or whatever it is. That's step 3. Step 4 is, again, to test. So use your best discretion, right? If it feels like something you want to do, like, these 2 examples were some pretty straightforward ones, but you might want to do a lot of graded exposure before you actually go and test running or something. So those are the general steps. Just know that you can modify them if you're, in constant pain. You don't have to like do the movement. You could basically use this framework to modify for yourself to imagine doing something that you want to do with pleasure. And even if that isn't a movement or something else, like you might want to just be like, I want to be able to speak in front of a crowd without getting quite as nervous, and then you would imagine yourself doing that with that emotion you want to have. So it's not just for pain reprocessing. These techniques have been used in all different areas, from anywhere from like, manifesting to business to sports coaching. It's just visualization. It's visualization. It's using the power of the brain. And those are the basic 4 steps, but like you can modify them. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. Any last questions, comments? Okay, that was really great, Betsy. Thanks, Andrea. We could also use that for emotional, psychological issues. It's amazing. Thank you. Yes, totally. I mean, I wouldn't call it graded exposure, but I have my daughter imagine scoring goals when we're driving over to her soccer games. So you could just call it visualizing if you're like, well, it's not really graded exposure in the way that you're describing it, but I want to use visualization to help, my life and to show my brain like maybe things aren't so hopeless and this is what we're hoping for. And just, it's a way of, getting to what you want. It definitely is. Okay, thank you. That was super helpful. So encouraging. Yes. If you can't even imagine it pain-free, is there a step before? Oh, great question. Yeah, I would maybe try something else. You know what I mean? Like, I've had this example where people were like, I really want to get back to running, but I have a lot of pain with running. So I'm like, let's get you just calm down with everything. If like imagining running is still painful, or you're not, or you think about running and you're just like getting some fear, because it's really all about just calming your nervous system so you're not in a fear state when you do the activity. So if you can't imagine it pain-free, the choices might be to imagine something simpler, so instead of running, you imagine maybe like walking fast, or you imagine, doing yoga instead, something that's like more accessible. If it feels, here's how I'll describe it. Listen to your body when you're imagining it. And if it feels so far away that it's so stretchy that you're just like, oh, it's just like telling myself a mantra, you're safe, when I don't believe it, then that's probably not the best use of your time. But if you can start with a baby step of something that is a little stretchy, but still able to believe, you can start with that and then work your way to the, skiing or jumping rope or something, right? Like that guy who couldn't imagine himself running. We just worked on like, maybe like some imagining jogging in place or something like that, right? Like imagine a baby step of it. Yes, there will be a replay. I think I can post it on the group, and for sure I know I can post it on my YouTube. So I'll give you the details about that. And then Peter says, feel so much better just listening to you. Yay. Key takeaway I learned was to have fun with it. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite thing to teach you guys. In fact, such a good segue to my next workshop. It's getting good at feeling good. There's a chapter about that in the way out. So please come to that if you're like, oh, it might be good to have more fun in my life. And maybe that's something that I haven't allowed myself to do. It's like so true. The fun is a huge element. And yes, this can help with IBS as well. You could imagine eating foods. You could imagine, the stressful situations and not having that and breathing deeply. Claire, I guess practicing is important too, and not give up if people don't get results immediately. Yes, exactly. Try to stay as patient with yourself as possible. These two examples, it's always fun to see though, just like 5-minute change, but also just know that if we don't get the result we want, just like somatic tracking, it's probably because our nervous system state was just a little too dysregulated when we tried it. And so these types of activities are good when we're more regulated. When we're super, super dysregulated and in a lot of pain, the best thing to do is just distract first and feel good. And then you can do the deeper work like this. Does that make sense? All right, you guys, so awesome. That was so great. I just loved hanging out with you today, and just keep on the Facebook site for more information about the replays or the next workshop that we're doing. All right, thanks, bye.